Last week, we got some pretty crazy stuff from watching the 2023 Game Awards. No matter what platform or side of gaming you enjoy playing on the most, you likely left watching the show somewhat satisfied. Whether it was through one of the numerous game reveals, maybe one of your favorite games won an award, or maybe you just got pleasure seeing the game developer speakers get told to hurry the f up, I won't judge you. But one thing that not only excited but also shocked a lot of people watching the award show, especially the PlayStation fans, was with the announcement of the 2022 game God of War Ragnarok receiving a free single-player story DLC, which I just gotta emphasize the free part, because in this high-priced microtransaction world that we live in, this announcement felt like a gift from Jesus himself. God of War Ragnarok was, in my opinion, one of the best story games of 2022, and the free DLC Valhalla is a dope-ass addition to that already, in my opinion, perfect story. And I'm not gonna spoil anything because the DLC is meant to be played after you beat the main game if you haven't already, or somehow dodged all of gaming social media for like a year now. But still, I can't recommend Valhalla enough for anyone that can get access to it. It is a really fun DLC. However, this morning, I read something that I didn't really expect to see regarding this whole new era of God of War games we're in that really just made me think. Now, if you don't know or are just nerfed with young age, God of War games started off as epic hack and slash games in the early 2000s before being reinvented into the third-person story about a boy and his father who only calls him boy. And these older games really capture the brutal warrior that Kratos claims he used to be in the new games, and if you grew up playing these on PS2, you know just how fun they were and how Dirty Santa Monica did us with the God of War 2 cliffhanger. But anyone can just compare the gameplay on these two different eras of God of War and tell that they're extremely different, pretty much two, different types of games, just using the same lore. And which era that any of you watching prefers to play is, obviously up for you to decide. But recently, the original God of War creator himself, David Jaffe, spoke up once again about his past creation, saying that he didn't like where the story was headed and that the new games aren't staying true to the nature of the original games. Now, I say again because, since his mysterious and unknown recent departure from Sony in 2007, he's been pretty vocal with shitting on what the God of War games turned into. Like, this isn't his first offense. He basically talks about how he doesn't rock with how they emphasize the life experience storyline into the new games, and that the title should be more centered around just good gameplay, basically less father-son dynamic and more ripping Vikings into pieces. He explains that the writer should just use another IP to tell their life stories and really just leave God of War as what it used to be. Now, personally, when I first saw this video, I just gotta be frank, I thought that David ripped a pipe full of crack before he started talking, because the new God of War games are literally peak in my opinion. But, if something like this is coming from the creator of the source material, then, out of respect for all of the God of War games, I wanted to at least speculate on what he said. Now, Jaffe implies that the God of War games, specifically the ones that he's behind, 1 and 2, is the direction where the game should be going, where it's mostly gameplay and there is a story, but not one that's trying to get you to relate to it from a life experience level. I mean, I don't know anyone who can say they threw hands with Zeus and actually live. And when I played these older games, I was really young. At that time I wasn't in it for the story. I was just spamming square until the enemy dropped colorful orbs and my pre-developed brain was satisfied. Except when I grew up and went back to these games again and actually learned the plot lines and the lore, I appreciated the games even more for the story that they told. Almost appreciating the story just a little more than the gameplay, because it made me root for Kratos to get back at all the people that f***ed him over, you feel me? So story does play a big role in a good game, at least for me, because I could have just had those fond memories of me spamming an attack button for 5 hours, but what really made these games stick is the story that they told. So with that, bring it back to the present. The reason that the new Kratos story captures so many players is because it tells a really good story, not just a cliche relatable one. Like, I love the story and I don't have any kids, that I know about, but how you feel about the new story it tells is just, subjective. This isn't my first time hearing somebody say that they don't like the new God of War games. At the end of the day, it's just an opinion. However, I just think that the new story that they tell for Kratos just works because it doesn't feel forced or like they're trying to use his name to garner a quick story game cash grab. It just stays true to the lore and tells the story of an older and matured Kratos, which many people appreciate. So I'm not saying that David Jaffe is wrong or right. Well, he's kind of wrong to me, but I just think that the answer to whether the God of War series is going in the wrong direction just depends on which games the person answering had more fun playing. Because, if we're going from a hardware and feature standpoint, obviously the new games win, but I think it's more about, the overall experience that you have while playing. It's going to be an endless debate as time goes on, but I think that Santa Monica could somewhat give us a middle ground by just remastering the old God of War games or releasing a new one based on Kratos' Greek era. That way we can all rip some enemies in half and call it a day. But of course, we'll just have to wait and see how Kratos turns out for the rest of the series, man. Some people will like it, some people won't, but at the end of the day, we can all agree that God of War is one of the best games out, whether it's old or new. So, what do you guys, think about this debate, man? Feel free to comment down below. And as always, if you like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on the next one.